If my son told me that he did not want me to go after what happened with Stephen, after I killed son, do you really think I was about to turn myself in because of her? Hell no. No. No.
And you feel no remorse for that?
I would kill him again.
Defendant shall be incarcerated in the Department of Corrections for the rest of her natural life.
This is Jodi Arias. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. Arias was convicted of killing her on-again, off-again lover, Travis Alexander. 2 prior juries were unable to agree on whether Arias should get the death sentence. Judge Sherry Stevens made the final sentencing decision. Stevens had to decide whether Arias would spend her whole life in jail or be eligible for release after 25 years. The court then heard Arias's mother pleading for mercy after hearing the sad remarks from Alexander's sisters, and then Arias's final petition for release in 25 years.
This day I can hardly believe I was capable of such violence. And here now I can't in good conscience ask you to sentence me to death because of them.
Meaningless, especially since nobody believes what I'm saying anyway.
You said it right there, no one believes a word out of your mouth. Why do you keep talking?
Because I know that I've lied before. That doesn't mean that I'm a liar by definition, by character.
To a lot of people, they think this switch from I want to die to now I want to live is just another lie from Jodi Arias.
I don't know what that means. Was I lying when I said I want to die, or was I lying when I say please spare my life, you know?
Arias, who was convicted of first-degree murder, said Alexander was attempting to assault her when she stabbed and shot him many times.
I'm truly disgusted and I'm repulsed with myself. I'm horrified because of what I did, and I wish there was some way I could take it back.
Arias's statement came after Alexander's family pleaded with the court to give the convicted murderer the worst penalty imaginable.
I don't want to remember him anymore. Because it hurts too much to remember him alive. I hate that she has taken my past of my brother and also my future. Memories of him. Give her the max sentence that you possibly can give her because she deserves nothing more.
Wilcox said that she occasionally thinks about him while in the shower, and that I know that's because that's where she killed him. So I have to quickly shake it out of my head and get out of the shower. Tanisha Sorensen, the second sister to speak, turned and confronted Arias directly, referencing Arias's prior remarks in her personal notebook that the person who murdered Alexander deserved to die.
You cajoled, lured, and deceived Shatisha Shealy, Angela Deskins, and Sherelda Terry to your apartment for your depraved purposes. You went on to abuse the corpses of these 3 victims. You stripped them from the waist down. You folded them in half, binding them so that their feet were up by their ears.
This is Michael Maddison. The Ohio man will be executed by lethal injection for abducting and murdering 3 women and disposing of their corpses. The jurors debated for less than a day before recommending the death penalty. The families of the victims, 38-year-old Angela Deskins, 28-year-old Shatisha Shealy, and 18-year-old Sherelda Terry, were happy that Maddison would not be able to victimize any more women, according to the Cuyahoga County prosecutor.
Anyone was ever due this sentence, it would be a cold-blooded serial killer like Michael Maddison.
The investigation started when a cable television technician noticed a foul odor emanating from Maddison's apartment building's garage.
On Friday, East Cleveland police received a phone call about a foul smell near the intersection of Shaw and Hayden. Police and EMS responded and broke into a garage where we discovered the remains of a victim, number 1.
Inside, investigators discovered the decomposing remains of a lady wrapped in waste bags and taped shut. The next day, searchers discovered corpses in the basement of a vacant house and in the backyard of a neighboring property. During the week-long mitigation hearing, experts hired by the defense claimed that Maddison suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder as a youngster after being physically tortured by his drug-addicted mother, stepfather, his mother's boyfriends, and other family members. Maddison was transferred to live with his grandmother as a little kid in the 1980s by a children's assistance agency after physicians discovered damage caused by the abuse. According to experts, his lack of caring ties with adults caused him to create another universe in his head that fostered his hatred toward women.
The justice moves slow. Way too slow for my satisfaction.
During an interview after his detention, Maddison admitted to strangling two of the ladies in a fit of fury. He said he had no recollection of murdering the third lady. At trial, his counsel did not contest Maddison's murder of the ladies, instead focusing on his psychiatric and drug misuse issues. At trial and throughout the mitigation hearing, prosecutors claimed that Maddison deserved to die because of the circumstances surrounding the murders,
of which the defendant was convicted, outweigh the mitigating factors by proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Accordingly, the sentence of death is imposed upon the defendant, Michael Maddison, on counts 1, 4, and 7.
Maddison was visibly moved when McDonald read out the jury's verdict. As soon as the judge completed delivering the judgment, deputy sheriffs arrested him, dressed in a suit and tie. Maddison's primary defense lawyer was hurried by news reporters without comment.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. Mcdavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Hang on. All right, we're going to need to take a break.
This is Dian Lovejoy and Weldon Mcdavid Jr. Lovejoy and her gun instructor were sentenced to 26 and 50 years in prison by Superior Court Judge Sim von Kalinowski for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder of Lovejoy's husband, Gref Mulvihill. Mcdavid Jr. receiving the longer sentence for pulling the trigger in a dark dirt road in Carlsbad as Lovejoy and Mulvihill were nearing the end of their difficult divorce and custody fight for their son. When the couple divorced in the summer of 2014, Lovejoy claimed that her husband had sexually assaulted her and their infant son.
Feeling I'm being set up. By who? In fact, I know I'm being set up. Who's setting you up? I'm so
After an inquiry, the family court withdrew the supervised visitation order and granted Mulvihill joint custody. Deputy District Attorney Jodi Breton said that Lovejoy duped Mcdavid into the shooting by fabricating allegations of abuse. Each disputed the existence of a murder-for-hire plan at their sentencing hearing on Wednesday.
I did not intend to shoot Mr. Mulvihill. I'm sorry that I shot Mr. Mulvihill. It was an aiming error, as I stated previously. There was no intent to kill.
Lovejoy, who sobbed in court, said she would never take her son's father away from him.
But I never, first of all, I would never, and I never did. The records show that I never attempted to delay or block any visitation between Greg and his son, even before he had custody. And I would never take Caleb's father away from him. I would never be able to do that.
Mulvihill was in court but did not say anything. He left immediately after his ex-wife was sentenced.
Jury found the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count 1. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Oliver, is that your verdict?
This is Shelby Isaac. Isaac was charged in the first-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the murders of a pregnant woman, a man, and their unborn child. Eddie Tate II and Edwina Thomas were shot in the 2100 block of Westchester Circle, and Isaac was charged with first-degree murder. She was found guilty of second-degree murder for Tate, reckless homicide for Thomas, and criminally negligent homicide for the unborn baby. Prosecutors said the victims were murdered after Isaac decided she wanted her money back from a hair weave purchase. Victoria Say, a co-defendant, testified against her. Isaac fainted after the guilty decision and shouted, "Mommy," and had to be removed from the courtroom. She sat silently and buried her head in her lap after hearing Judge James Lammy pronounce her sentence on the first count on Thursday.
Definitely meant to kill her.
It wasn't an accident?
No, not at all. If I had a chance to do it again, I would.
This is Mitchelle Blair. This sick mother of 4 from Detroit, Michigan, killed her 2 children and kept their remains in a freezer for over 3 years in a terrifying and horrible case that rocked the country. The horrifying discovery was uncovered after the 35-year-old mother was evicted from her residence for failing to pay rent. When crews from the 36th District Court arrived to retrieve her items, they discovered a deep freezer holding the bones of Stephen Barry and Stoney Blair. Blair caught her son Matthew practicing sexual activities with his toys in August of 2012. When she questioned him about why he was doing it and whether he had been mistreated, he admitted that his brother Stephen had.
Can you talk me through the type of abuse that you had to suffer as a kid?
You mean sexual abuse?
If that's what happened?
That definitely did happen to me. That's why I know exactly how would have grew up. I told my mother what happened to me, and the only thing she said was, "It's over with, so what the you want me to do about it?"
Blair then approached Stephen, who admitted to the abuse as well. In a fit of fury, she began beating and kicking him, finally covering his head with a trash bag until he lost consciousness.
What happens when your kids come to visit you in 2005?
Sister gave him a bath, seen whips on his back.
Who's seen whips?
My sister.
Your sister. Did you see these whips?
She showed them to me.
Blair admits to torturing Stephen and forcing him to drink Windex. She also tied a belt around his neck, raised him up, and asked whether he enjoyed being choked. Stephen lost consciousness and died as a result of the mistreatment. Blair discovered 9 months later that her daughter Stoney was also sexually assaulting Matthew. As a consequence, she started starving and viciously beating Stoney until her death.
Your primary responsibility was to protect your kids. And in that respect, you failed in the worst possible way. There's nothing that can be done at this point to change what happened.
True, that's why I'm asking for life.
I know. And thankfully, that house of horrors that you created is no longer in existence. I do pray that your remaining children
They will.
Recover.
They will.
Blair planned to give herself into the police at first, but when Matthew informed her he didn't want her to, she decided to put Stoney's corpse in a garbage bag and throw it in the deep freezer on top of Stephen's body. Blair showed no remorse for her conduct throughout the trial. She even told the judge in court, "I would kill them again." She pleaded guilty to 2 charges of first-degree premeditated murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Her sentence is presently being served at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Thank you for watching. As always, please remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.